There we go. What is going on, crew? Welcome to another weekly training with Matt. We're talking type 1 diabetes, insulin-dependent diabetes, really. But today we're talking about simplifying it. So if you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. This one's going to be a popular one, I am confident, because today I'm spilling the beans, spilling the tea, whatever the kids are saying these days. Diabetes is super complicated. Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. And if you're new to diabetes, you might not realize just yet how complicated it is. What I've found is that over the years, decade, that as diabetes gets more, well, I should say this, as I've studied diabetes more throughout my life, initially I didn't care about it. Then I started to get involved enough to where I would understand the basics, know how to take care of myself. And then, of course, later on, dedicating my life to the research, the understanding, really the new methods to make diabetes easier. At that point, realizing as I dug deeper that diabetes is more complicated than I ever imagined. And there is just a lot that goes into it. And it's kind of overwhelming when you really get down to it. All the different things that blood sugars impact or that impact blood sugars. So today, if it's cool with you guys, I want to just slow it down for a sec, breathe, and simplify, because there are so many different topics that we could spend hours on. I mean, honestly, we've done conferences and workshops that lasted for days on a single topic in the past, like with my higher end clients. It's absolutely nuts. So we have comments coming in. Bev, already with the first comment, agree, love it. So we know the audio is at least working. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page so I can see all of your comments. And go ahead and smash that like button for me so people know to come watch, so that the algorithm notifies everyone. It's getting emails, people like, I didn't get notified, I missed it. So go ahead and hit that like button so everybody else knows to come watch, and they get told by Facebook. But super excited. There we go. Here's our feed. To chat with you guys today about simplifying diabetes and what that can look like. So everybody else knows to come watch. There we go. All right. So overall, what I want to start off with is this video, obviously being a simplification of diabetes management, is not going to be us covering everything. All right. So this is not the end all. This is an introduction into simplification of diabetes management. So how do we control blood sugars? Like, what are some quick and easy steps that we can take? This is not me going into how to live your best life with diabetes. This is not how to achieve 100% time in range with diabetes. This is just the simplification. Okay. I want to get that out there. That way we get to the end and you're like, but that's not going to solve every single XYZ problem. And I'm like, I know, it's the simplification, right? So now with that out of the way, I can be free to share with you a quick story. So when I was, we were traveling over the weekend, and my sister, for those of you who don't know, is type 1 as well. And she was there, family was there, my mom, my dad, my wife, my daughter. It was a great time for us to enjoy some time in the mountains. My dad and I snuck away for a day, went to some downhill mountain biking, and had a blast. If you have not seen that over on Instagram, we were able to take our bikes out and go off of jumps and cliffs and crazy wooden features that people built in the middle of the forest. And it was just a dream. I thrive on that kind of stuff. And during that trip, my sister and I were chatting, and I had this thought that, we talk about the intricacies of diabetes, how different things are impacting our blood sugars all the time. My family is very active. So, we're going from mountain biking straight to pickleball. Any pickleball fans? Type pickleball in the chat if you're even know what pickleball is. But one activity to the next, to the next, to the next, going on a boat tour, then going hiking, and then quick get lunch, and then go back out and do more activities. And it can get overwhelming, trying to keep blood sugar stable when you have that many variables. And it hit me that no one really simplifies diabetes once you get out of the hospital, but in the hospital, they oversimplify it. So there's this gap, right, where you want more information, but initially it's overwhelming, so you don't want all of the information. And so the doctors have to play this game of like, well, how much is too much? And do we give them more information? Do we simplify it? And you leave the hospital in most cases with, some insulin, a guess, a best guess at your insulin to carb ratio, maybe some basal insulin. And they're just like, all right, good luck, right? Let us know if you have questions. And that's like best case scenario. I've had some unfortunate coaching calls with some clients that have told me that That's not even what they received when they were diagnosed. I said, I got a vial of insulin and a syringe, and that was it. I said, good luck. You'll figure out how much to take. And it was like, what? Anyways, so I'm having this chat with my sister, and in talking through diabetes and blood sugars and the frustrations that we encounter every so once in a while. And it hit me that there are ways to simplify diabetes, not to master it in this case, but if you are feeling overwhelmed, there's ways to simplify it and reduce the friction in your life. So the first thing that I came up with when just kind of pondering, well, how do we simplify diabetes? First thing, truly across the board, this applies to every single individual that I've ever encountered with diabetes, is consistency. And you've probably heard this before in one way or another. The more consistent you are, the better your blood sugars will be. Or maybe you've heard diabetes loves consistency, and it does, right? Now, the reason for that, well, there's multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons for that is that our body operates on a circadian rhythm, right? Your sleep quality, the timing of your sleep is going to impact the hormone release throughout the day. And we can set our basals to match that. And our goal of the basal insulin, of course, is to match the output of the liver. And if that's going to change, if you sleep during the day versus during the night, if you're traveling through multiple time zones, if you're not going to bed consistently at the same time, it's going to throw that off just a little bit, right? Now, that's one of many factors that can throw it off. But to go back to our main point, consistency is everything if you're trying to simplify. So if you're thinking, I want to make as few decisions as possible within diabetes management, then you're going to have to be consistent. Now, like I said in the beginning, this is not a solution to all of your diabetes problems. This is not the quality of life or the best case scenario. This is us simplifying, right? I'm just giving it straight to you. Consistency will work. If you're like, oh man, my mealtime always sucks. I spike every time I eat XYZ foods. Well, consistency in the foods that you eat is going to help do two things. One, it's going to make patterns real obvious to you. If you eat the same thing for 3 days in a row and you spike every day, all of a sudden we figured out that food needs a different approach, right? Maybe it's the timing of the dose. Maybe it's the amount of the dose. Maybe it's some strategies surrounding the dose. But the only thing you can pull from that is that there is a lack of a solution in that situation, right? So if you're consistent in the types of foods that you eat, especially in problem areas, you'll start to identify these things a lot faster. Now, again, I'm going to have to keep coming back to this because I know we're going to get comments about like, well, that's not realistic. Or like, I don't want to do that. That's not the point of this live. This live is to simplify. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, or even if you just were never taught these things, that's what this serves for. So simplification is going to arise out of a consistent nature. If you can build a routine around your diabetes management, it's going to get a lot easier to manage. So I look at what are my problem areas and how can I build a consistent routine around those areas. And this is not for a long-term strategy, but it will help you to get into a place where you can start recognizing these patterns. So quick thought is, what are some problem areas that y'all are experiencing or have experienced? And we'll start getting some ideas for everybody else. So this comment is not for you to start diving into like, well, let's solve this right now. It's more of like, let's show everyone that we all experience problems. And I'll add one in here myself. One that I used to have. It's not letting me type. Come on. All right, join me in the typing because it's not letting me type everything out. But type out a frustration you've had, a problem area with your blood sugars. I used to, for me, it was go low every night at 2 a.m. And that's going to be my problem. Boom. We got Jennifer says spiking at night with snacking at nights. Yeah, totally. So go ahead and keep dropping comments in there. I'm going to keep going. But Jennifer, you're the winner. You got our first comments on the examples. Now, the second thing, my phone's blowing up. Second thing within that, let's just give mealtime as an example. Right? Jennifer mentioned snacking. For me, it was, here you go. Bev says go low with activity. Absolutely. The second piece of this, if we're using meals as an example, is going to be measuring everything. Now, technically, and this is going to blow some minds, I already know it, but technically everything in diabetes can be measured. This includes your activity, all right? And we can dive into that in a different training, but real quick, think about things that you can measure with activity. Your heart rate, the timeline, or duration, right? The intensity, your calories burned, calories consumed because of lows, right, during activity. Everything can be measured. But let's just stick to food for now. Measuring everything within food could look like measuring cups or a food scale. I know I just lost half of our viewers. What? Measuring with the food scale? Are you nuts? I'm dead serious. I still use a food scale. It's very helpful. Food labels, if you're using packages or if you have something like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, right? If you measure it, it's going to help a lot with the consistent nature that you're trying to implement. What gets measured gets managed, right? And over time, by the way, it gets easier. Like you actually start to memorize things. You could tell me like 90%, I would say, of foods that I've got memorized for the carbs, fats, proteins. Over a decade plus of reading these labels, you'll start to remember familiar numbers. But the third thing I want to talk to you guys about, and this is the most complicated I want us to get when looking at simplifying diabetes, is understanding your trending arrows and IOB. Now, quick bonus. Oh, Jolene says I use the scale too. That's awesome. It's a rare thing. Most people don't use scales, and I'm like, it's so simple. It makes it a lot easier. So IOB, we're gonna get a bonus question. Who knows what IOB stands for? Let's go to the chat. First 3 people get a gold star virtual. IOB. What do we think that means? We're going to get into some other pieces of this as well, but I wanted to start you guys off with these top 3 that I've got. So consistency with your problem areas, use measuring tools or measure everything however you can. And then 3 is understand trending arrows and IOB. We got Bev, insulin on board. We got David says highs or lows, I don't understand. Okay, yeah. We got another one. Let's see who this is. Jeff Brower, insulin on board. Fantastic. We got 2 people. Gold star, gold star. So with insulin on board, understanding a few different pieces of the insulin on board. When you take insulin, does it start working immediately? In most cases, no. Depending on when you're watching this video. If you're watching this video like 10 years from now and it's 2032, then maybe it does work instantly, right? But right now it does not. There's one type of insulin that works close to instantly, but most people don't have access to it or don't know it exists. And that's called Afrezza. It's an inhalable insulin. Now, there's faster kinds of insulin. There's ways to make insulin work faster, but the general consensus is that insulin takes roughly 10 to 15 minutes to start working. Start. So from that point on, does insulin continue working at the same pace? Does it just start at 15 minutes and it's equal distribution over a certain amount of time? Yes and no, right? Yes, it's over a certain amount of time, but it's not equal distribution. There is a natural peak of the insulin where it is most effective and doing the most work. See, we're already getting deep into the weeds with this, and this is just like surface level of IOB or insulin on board. We got David Walcott also says insulin on board. Love it. So what I want you to understand is that your trending arrows and insulin on board are one of the greatest determining factors of what's about to happen, right? Or what could potentially change in the near future. So if you're looking at your trending arrows, and real quick, if you don't know what trending arrows are, you are not completely behind, but you are missing out on some crucial information. All right. So trending arrows come from a new device, not new, but it's becoming more widely adopted. A device called a CGM. Different companies that make these are Dexcom, Freestyle Libre, Medtronic has one called the Guardian. There's a new one called the Eversense CGM. It's implantable. The idea behind it is that it's a device. Let's see, where's mine? Here we go. It's a device that you wear, right? It's got a little wire in there, and it's measuring interstitial fluid, and it gives you blood sugar updates every 5 minutes, depending on which device you have. So it gives you blood sugar updates every 5 minutes, which means you have a ton of data points. And over time, it shows a trending direction. So you can see, okay, my blood sugars are going up right now because every 5 minutes, the plot on the graph is increasing. Oh, my blood sugars are going down right now because every 5 minutes, the new data point is lower and lower and lower, right? So understanding your trending arrows and what that's going to do to your blood sugars longer term, what actions you can take is going to help you simplify your diabetes. I'll give you an example. And this is going to be a participation example. I want you guys to engage, all right? So if I have a blood sugar of 120, and it's a finger stick, all I know is that it's 120. I think this is fantastic. I love this, right? Heading into dinner, let's say, and I'm like, well, I just finished a workout, feeling awesome, 120, so I'm in a good range. I'm gonna go ahead, dose, take my insulin, pre-bolus, right, and then eat my meal. Now, the issue with that, because that used to be how I operated as well, used to do the finger sticks for a long time, is that we don't know what direction the 120 is headed. It could be going up, it could be stable, it could be going down, but we won't know that until you have multiple data points. And the great thing about a CGM is that it's been tracking those data points the whole time. So what we do, we flip open our app or our device that shows us those trending arrows, and it says, hey man, you've got double arrows down at 120, which means you're dropping rapidly, headed towards a hypoglycemia. Super dangerous if you were to introduce extra insulin at this point without taking that into consideration, right? So now all of a sudden, what are we going to do? How are you going to make an adjustment? This is the participation point. How are we going to make an adjustment now that we know the trending arrows are indicating that we're dropping rapidly? Give me that in the comments. What do you guys think is the next step for us to do? How are we going to alter this plan if we're about to eat dinner, but we have two trending arrows pointed down, rapid drop at 120? Give me your thoughts. I wish I had some Jeopardy music. I might have to add that into our our playlist. Do, 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 do. I'll wait for you. I'll quit it. Give me your thoughts, though. And yes, that is coffee at whatever time it is now, 4:15 p.m. Pacific. It has been a week. Not even like, oof, it's been a day. It's been a week. It's been crazy. Good and bad. Good and not so good. But we're rolling through. Come on, guys. We got to get some thoughts in here. I don't want to make everybody wait. So give me your thoughts. We got double arrows down, 120. Just finished a workout. We're heading into dinner. What are the changes in our plan? How are we going to adjust with that new data point? How do those trending arrows help us make new decisions? Jeff says lower bolus amount for carbs. Thank you, Jeff. Rockstar, for getting in the comments there. Lower bolus amount for carbs. That's one strategy. Let's hear what else you guys got. Here we go. Jolene says, I think you guys are just typing out. That's why there's a lag. Jolene says, let the pump adjust the bolus due to the double down. The question mark. Good thought. Good thought. Another thought we can definitely implement. I do want us to be cautious about relying on the technology to make decisions for us. I am a huge advocate for learning the strategies ourselves so that if the pump doesn't get the entire equation, we can catch that. I've certainly caught myself relying on the pump and then getting into a dangerous situation because of that, because it doesn't take everything into consideration. Prime example, the pump does not know that you just finished a workout, right? So your insulin sensitivity might be increased and could potentially put you in a scary position. Still a great thought, though. Love that, Jolene. All right, we got some sleepers watching. Low comments, but you guys are on the right track. So we got Jeff and Jolene get gold stars. Appreciate you guys. So everybody else who's just hanging out by the computer, maybe you're a slow typer. That's okay. I'm going to give you guys the answer. With the trending arrows telling us that we're dropping rapidly, Jeff said lower the bolus amount. Jolene basically said the same thing, right? There's a couple different routes we can actually take. One of them, yes, lower the bolus amount. Another one, we can play with the pre-bolus, right? If I am going to give a dose for a meal and I'm rapidly dropping, probably not going to wait the full 10, 15, 20 plus minutes for the insulin to start working, right? In fact, I probably don't want to wait for the insulin to start working because that's going to be dangerous if I'm headed towards a low blood sugar, right? Jolene says, could you start eating until the arrows stabilize? That's the second option. Love that. Way to go, Jolene. Second option, treat the drop before you introduce new insulin so that you are safe. Now, this one requires that you have a wider time horizon where, if you have to eat right then, let's say that you're at a restaurant or maybe you're heading into a work meeting afterwards and it's lunchtime, right? You're like, oh, crap, I have to eat right now. That's where you want to adjust the other pieces of the puzzle. But yeah, if it's dinner and you've got an hour to kill, you don't have to eat right now, treat it first. That's actually my favorite because it's the least risky, right? You treat it before you get into the danger spot. Jillian says, then give insulin. Yeah, so you could also start the meal, give insulin halfway through. If it's starting to look better, right? Reassess. A lot of different ways we can treat this. But all of those strategies don't exist unless we have the trending arrows and have an understanding of how they work. Now, same situation, IOB, insulin on board. if we enter into a meal, into a workout, into anything with insulin on board, you got to know what to expect, what you can plan for, the recency of the dose, the amount of the dose. Was the dose appropriate or was it a mistake? Lots of these things come from the training arrows and your insulin on board. So, quick recap. If we are aiming to simplify diabetes management, we want to pay attention to the consistent nature of the problem areas we're already encountering. If I spike every single time I eat breakfast, it's time to start eating the same food for a couple days in a row so I can see what that pattern looks like. Or if I just don't want to deal with diabetes, eat the same thing every day. You'll be taking roughly the same amount of insulin in most cases if you are taking the correct amounts. And you won't have to worry about, well, how much do I give for this meal? Am I counting my carbs correctly? Because you're going back to consistent meals, right? No, it's not a long-term strategy, but it does allow you to give yourself a break in the meantime if you're feeling kind of burnt out, right? Then you're not having to do diabetes math each time you go to eat food. Second thing you want to look at, measuring everything. If you're not consistent, or if you are, measuring the food that you eat, measuring your workouts, measuring your sleep, whatever you measure gets managed. So if you don't want to manage it, don't measure it. Guess your carb counts, right? I know that's popular. I used to do that. But if you want it to be managed, start measuring it. And the third component is develop a deeper understanding of your trending arrows and your IOB, your insulin on board. If you can match those up and understand how they work, everything gets simplified. Significantly easier, right? Now, what I want you guys to do real quick, I want to know, because we are talking about simplifying diabetes, we're gonna pull from the community real quick right now. If you could think back, or maybe you're going through it right now, so maybe this is perfect. Think through what you think would be your top 5 foundational pieces of knowledge to diabetes management. What are the top, we'll call it 3 to 5 things that you think are foundational that everyone should be taught or should learn themselves if they're not being taught. Doesn't matter the gender, the age, the experience level, none of it. What are the top 3 to 5 things that you think would be most valuable for someone to either be taught by their medical team or to learn themselves? I want you guys to toss that in the comments real quick. And while you guys are thinking through that, I want to tell you guys something fun going on within this whole realm of simplicity, because this is a conversation that's been going on with myself and my team for quite a while. Talking about how can we simplify diabetes management? Yes, because my team and I actually talk about diabetes strategies. I have a few people on my team that used to be clients, and they asked if they could work for us, and now they do. And we talk about diabetes strategies all the time. They'll send me a project completion notice, and then right afterwards be like, also, by the way, my blood sugars are high, and here's what happened. What do you think I should do? We still coach each other. It's fun. Anyways, we've been chatting about how to simplify diabetes, but also how to simplify the way that we serve our diabetes community, how we help people, creating resources and all that. And we had a look at what we've been doing over the last 5+ years and realized that we have an absurd amount of options for people to get help. Whether it's like, hey, here's a PDF that you can go grab for free, put your email here. Maybe there's a video you can go watch, or maybe there's a logbook or digital assets or summits, all these different things. And we realized we've overcomplicated the entire process. And so we had a chat with the team recently, and I don't see any comments yet. You guys got to drop those in there. What are the top 3 to 5 foundational things about diabetes management that you wish you learned, or you think that someone should teach themselves if they're not learning it? Drop that in the comments. Oh, we got one. All right, Bev, first one. Keep it coming. So what we decided, because it was so crazy, complicated, and chaotic within the company, all the different things that we've created over the years, we are doing what we are calling a fire sale. And if you're not familiar with what that is, the idea is essentially we've got hundreds of resources, videos, podcast episodes, PDFs, documents, trainings, walkthroughs, blueprints, all these things. We've had hundreds of resources that just are sitting there, either in the vault or got lost, over the years. And so what we decided to do, sorry, I got something in my throat. What we decided to do with this thing called a fire sale is essentially we're going to collect all the things that we have and we're going to burn them up. We're saying, you know what? It's too complicated. There's too many things going on. We're lighting it on fire. Like we're actually going to hit the delete button because we want to make sure that it's not difficult to understand what it is that we can help you with. But before we do hit the delete button, before we actually burn everything, we realize that there's some stuff in there that is pure gold. That, you know, we've got people that have emailed us and said this one specific thing saved my life. So we thought it wouldn't be fair just to hit the delete button and get rid of the resources entirely before opening it up one last time. So in this fire sale, what we're going to be doing is giving everyone who follows us, this is going to be kind of a quiet thing. We're not going to like make a whole deal out of it, but we're giving people an opportunity to essentially complete their collection of FTF Warrior resources. So there's a good chance that, you know, you've picked up one or two things here and there, different resources that we have over the years, but I can guarantee you that not a single person has everything we've ever released. And the reason for that is that some things were never released. Like we spent, you know, thousands of dollars researching and putting things together, and it just never got released for some reason or another. And so with that, we decided to go dig into the vault, pull out all of the most valuable resources that we found that have changed lives or that we did create with the intent of changing lives. And we're going to bundle them all up before we set them on fire, before we delete them, to let people like you complete your collection of that. How cool is that, right? The team wanted to put this last hurrah in, complete it, and really put their efforts all together to compile these documents, these PDFs, videos, trainings into one specific location so that you could complete your collection, have access to the resources, the knowledge, and the tools necessary to actually simplify your diabetes, right? How cool is that? Give me like a thumbs up in the chat if that's something that you think is awesome, because they're working really hard to make it happen. There's a lot of files they had to dig through to go find those things. Jolene says, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Absolutely. And it's not just me, it's a team effort. And that's what I want. Like, I want them to get the applause because they are bending over backwards to make this happen. In my opinion, I was like, it's helped enough people. Like, let's just create something new. And they're like, this changes lives, Matt. Like, you have to give them one more chance. I was like, all right, that's fine. So what we're going to be doing is that over the course of probably the next week is giving people an opportunity to complete their collection. You'll be able to see, you know, all the things that we are going to hit the delete button on and burn up. But before we do, you can go through the list and be like, oh yeah, shoot, that looks like something that could actually help me. And because we can't have individual conversations with everyone and say, okay, which one of these things do you want? What we're going to do is just bundle it all together, sell it for insanely cheap, basically cheaper than any of the things even individually would have cost. And that way you can just grab whatever you want, you know, and have everything in one location. So it's not available yet. Team's still putting them together. But what they wanted me to let you guys know is they did find a resource from 5 years ago that's special to me. It's near and dear to my heart. My wife and I actually put this one together and created it to be the last resource you would ever need. And we put thousands of dollars into it. And I thought we had closed the doors forever, but they convinced me to release it one last time. It is well, I won't ruin the surprise for you, but essentially we're going to be giving you early access to that as well for anybody who is going to take advantage of this. So like I said, it's not even available yet. Just want to let you guys know because you're my crew. Wanted to give you an early heads up, but we're probably going to be sending out an email for it. But just in case you missed the email or maybe you're not even getting our emails, I want to give you a chance in here. So if that's something that you think would be helpful to complete your collection, you know, all the master classes that I've done over the last year, different pieces of our trainings, of our resources, the PDFs and all that great stuff. What I want you to do right now is just drop the word fire sale. That way I know I can sift through the comments and see who's interested. And then that way we can make sure you get early access to it. You don't have to sit around and wait, or, you know, worst case scenario, you miss the sale entirely and you're like, I wanted to go get it. And it's like, oh, we already hit the delete button. I'm so sorry. So the two reasons that we're doing this, just to give you guys kind of an understanding of what's going on. One is that my team, whenever we're trying to help someone, has a lot of options. It's like, okay, which of these 50 things should we point them towards? And it's a very difficult decision for them to make. They have to go find like the right links to get you to sign up. And, you know, sometimes people can't find the right links, and it's just a whole thing for our support team. And I want to simplify that for them. But more importantly, people like yourselves. Oh, so you got Jolene says fire sale, Beth says fire sale, Jeff says fire sale. Love that. David says cool. You guys are awesome. So the other reason that we're doing this fire sale is that people like yourself come to us and they're like, hey, I'm struggling with our diabetes and blood sugars are difficult. And a lot of times people are like, well, what is it that you can offer? Like, how can you help us? And we're like, there's like 100 things, right? So it's confusion of like, well, what is my next step? And it's just gotten to a place where it's so complicated, and diabetes itself is complicated enough, right? Like, can I get an amen? Diabetes is a lot. And so last thing I want you to have to do is sift through 100 different things and try to figure out which one is the best. So I wanted to get all of them in one location. Like, hey, this is your bundle. This is your package, right? This is going to have everything you need in there. And it's going to be every resource that we've found to help lots of people. So simplifying it for our team, yes, but also simplifying it for you. There's no reason you should have to sift through all these different resources, videos and trainings and PDFs to find your solution. You should just have the straight path to that, right? So that's what we're doing. I see we got some fire sale comments already, which is awesome. Like I said, we're going to be getting that in order, making sure everything works and organized for you so that, again, it's not chaos. It's not over complicated. We want to simplify diabetes management. That's the big goal, so that when you do simplify diabetes, you can get back to living your life, right? And that's the end goal, is the quality of life mixed with health. Good blood sugars, good life. They meet in the middle. You get to enjoy everything. So that, I think, is all I've got for you today. Maybe next week or a different week, we'll talk about isolating your core 4, new concept we're talking about for the next step from simplifying your diabetes. So, first step, consistency is key. Measure everything. Make sure that you are understanding your trending arrows and IOB. But beyond that, if you're looking to simplify / automate, there's a few more steps so you can get in place as well. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. I got to take off. And again, if you wanted to grab the info, and this is not a commitment, but just if you wanted to get more info on the fire sale, kind of see what's going on, as well as get access to an unannounced bonus that we're only giving to people who are early accessors, like those in the comments, go ahead and drop the word fire sale, and either myself or one of our team members will reach out to you and get you some more info on that. All right. So thanks so much for hanging out. Next week, we got some fun topics. And in the next couple of weeks, there's my own pump running out of insulin, I think. We're going to be talking about some exciting topics, potentially with some guests. Might have some fun news for you guys there as well. So thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you guys next week, every week, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. Have an amazing rest of your week and keep up the fight. I'll see you guys later. Bye.